Chapter 196, Sudden Emergency. After tidying up, Fang Hao went to his mother-in-law's room and found her genuinely asleep. Carefully, he removed the acupuncture needles. With little Tiger and Tian sleeping together, his wife and daughter sleeping together, Fang Hao had no choice but to go to the study. Ever since Su Yucheng entered the PhD program and their master-apprentice relationship with Fang Hao became more subdued, Su's research didn't require Fang Hao's assistance, and his papers didn't need Fang Hao's corrections. Of course, Su knew Fang Hao became the deputy chief of the gynecology department and had a busy schedule, making it difficult for him to help. However, Fang Hao maintained his previously oppressed work habits and status, reading medical books, checking the latest medical updates daily, and even watching recorded surgical videos. Like a sponge absorbing from the ocean of medical knowledge. Every successful person starts as a workaholic. Luo Xuejuan was researching the treatment of menopausal women. The new drug was likely in the second phase of clinical trials, so Fang Hao wouldn't be allowed to touch her patients. Menopause? Fang Hao collected some information on this and confirmed that Luo Xuejuan was taking the conventional route, studying the secretion of hormones in menopausal women's bodies to understand how to treat them. The principle was that the human body is a whole, and the levels of various hormones should be in balance. If the hormone levels become unbalanced, the body shows abnormalities. For menopausal women, this could manifest as irregular menstruation, significant emotional fluctuations, aging appearance, and more. Studying the hormonal fluctuations corresponding to these conditions and controlling these hormone levels during treatment was the approach. Unfortunately, Luo Xuejuan's clinical trial results were not as good as Fang Hao expected. Nevertheless, her drug still had some effect, and it passed the evaluation by the Drug Administration. Was the drug developed by her alone, or did she collaborate with others? Either way, it was a way to make money. She didn't let me see her patients not because she was afraid I'd take them, but to prevent me from hindering her money-making. What's the difference between this woman and Li Xiaoxi? Perhaps people in society are all like this. Fang Hao did some homework on Yue Xia Huo next, gathering information online. He found out that it was also a sanatorium, a sanctuary for elderly women cadres. When Liu said she would take me to Yue Xia Huo, was it to treat these elderly cadres? Did she initially encourage me to join the gynecology department to use the title of deputy chief to open doors? Introducing these patients to me, wouldn't she deceive me? Fang Hao felt it shouldn't be the case. It was also because of Lu Yu's introduction that he treated Han Yan, received a 2 million consultation fee, and later agreed to treat Su Linin for a 1 million hush fee. These under-the-table incomes must not be disclosed. But is it okay to accept this money? Fang Hao was still a bit uneasy, but he accepted the check. Until now, it hadn't been cashed. Even if he were to cash it, he would deposit it into his parents' account. As long as I don't make mistakes and can effectively treat the patients or help them improve, that is success. Thinking this way, Fang Hao grasped the balance. Just as Fang Hao lay down, a call came in. The night shift attending physician in the gynecology department called, saying that a patient had a problem at night, experienced shock at one point, and even had atrial fibrillation at the most critical moment. Fang Hao asked for the patient's bed number and immediately recognized that it was a patient transferred by Luo Xuejuan. He instructed the attending physician to find Luo Xuejuan and Li Rongzi. The attending physician reported that they had called, but both Luo Xuejuan and Li Rongzi's phones were turned off. Even the emergency line went unanswered, so they had no choice but to contact Fang Hao. Don't panic. I'll be there soon. Maintain for 10 minutes, and I'll be there. Fang Hao hung up the phone, quickly dressed, and left the room. As he got into his car, his wife called. He frowned but answered, saying, "There's a patient issue at the hospital. I need to go. You all go to sleep. Husband, I'll wait for you to come back." "No need to wait. I don't know how long it will take." Fang Hao hung up, swiftly leaving for the hospital's inpatient department. He saw the on-duty attending physician and nurse overwhelmed, their faces pale and showing signs of panic. Night shifts were the worst, especially when faced with such situations. Most doctors had already gone off duty, and most departments were closed. Fatigue overwhelmed them, and if they didn't handle the situation properly, they could end up shouldering the blame if something went wrong. "Don't panic. Let me take a look." Fang Hao glanced at the patient, a middle-aged woman around 50 with an average appearance. However, her hair was dyed golden, and her eyebrows were shaved and redrawn into triangular shapes, which Fang Hao found to be aesthetically unpleasant. Natural looks are better for women. This woman had poor complexion, and her breathing was somewhat labored. Examining her pupils didn't bring optimistic results either. Checking her medication records, Fang Hao found many medications specified by Luo Xuejuan that weren't listed in the provincial hospital's medication directory. After examining her pulse, he instructed the attending physician to take the patient for an urgent X-ray. It seemed like a heart attack, and immediate heart surgery would be required. After a pause, he instructed another nurse to contact the surgical department to have someone from there perform the surgery. Noticing that the patient's family hadn't arrived, he urged the nurse to contact them urgently. The X-ray results came quickly, confirming Fang Hao's suspicion of a heart issue that required the implantation of a heart stent. Preserve this data. Hand it over to Dr. Li Rongzi in the morning. Fang Hao instructed the attending physician, then went to scrub up. He wasn't the primary surgeon, but observing was still necessary. The nurse who went to make the calls came back with bad news. Several surgeons from the surgical department couldn't be reached, and there was no way to contact them. Never mind, I'll perform the surgery myself. Fang Hao saw that time was of the essence, and the patient might not make it through the night. He had to take the initiative. He signed the necessary forms, had the attending physician assist, and arranged the instruments and consumables. The surgery began with Fang Hao as the lead. Close to 2 hours later, although exhausting, the surgery was remarkably successful. The attending physician sighed in relief. After the nurse left, leaving only her and Fang Hao, she said, "Dr. Fang, this patient is under Dr. Luo's care. Dr. Li Rongzi mentioned that this patient is part of a clinical trial for drug development. We don't have Dr. Luo's consent. Will there be trouble? Firstly, we can't reach Dr. Luo or Dr. Li, so there's no chance to inform them. Secondly, the patient is in a critical condition, suffering from a heart attack and atrial fibrillation. Time waits for no one, and we can't afford any delays. Thirdly, Dr. Luo hasn't officially taken office yet, so unexpected situations in our gynecology department fall under our responsibility. Save the data, and hand it over to Dr. Li Rongzi tomorrow. As for other matters, we don't need to worry about them." Fang Hao spoke in a professional tone, dealing with the situation at hand. Whether the patient's condition was due to her own issues or drug trial side effects wasn't something he needed to consider at this moment. These matters were irrelevant to him, and he left them for Luo Xuejuan, who had asserted her authority, to worry about. Chapter 197, Bad Luck. In the early morning, feeling a bit tired, Fang Hao went downstairs for a smoke. However, he received a call from Jin Xiaojian, inviting him to go out. "It was 2 a.m., and you want me to go out? Are you the wind, or have I turned into sand?" Fang Hao heard wind noises, laughter from beautiful women, and the roaring engines of sports cars in the background. "I'm busy, on duty at the hospital." "How good, you're at the hospital, perfect. I'll come to find you. Get me some medicine to last longer tonight, at least an hour." Fang Hao, annoyed, hung up the phone. He then received a message from his wife asking when he would be back. He replied, saying he just finished a surgery, needs postoperative observation, and won't be coming home, staying at the hospital. His wife replied, asking him to rest early but to come back in the morning to cook for the children. Should he go back? Rationally, since the divorce lawsuit was rejected, the next step should be a separation. Once they've lived separately for a certain period, the court would likely grant him a divorce. He loved his wife, but she cheated, and she didn't seem to love him as much as she claimed, forcing him to choose divorce. However, his wife was pregnant again. Regardless of whether it was his child or the Lechers, she was in a vulnerable position now. If he could prove the child was the Lechers, his wife would have no defense. With the twins, assuming the paternity test confirms the Lecher, along with the proven evidence of Fang Jiajia, Suro couldn't deny it anymore. Yet, Fang Hao underestimated the complexity of divorce. His wife adamantly refused to sign, even using her connections to have his divorce lawsuit dismissed. If he didn't produce the paternity test proving her infidelity, the court wouldn't accept his case. The truth behind the paternity test was too ugly. Once exposed, his wife would be ruined, and he might also face public criticism. People would mock him for being so spineless. After smoking 2 cigarettes in contemplation, Fang Hao remained indecisive. Outside, the roar of an engine approached as a sports car entered the hospital grounds, parking in front of the gynecology building. Fang Hao's pupils contracted as he saw Jin Xiaojian getting out of the car. 2 scantily clad young women sat in the car's passenger seats. Jin Xiaojian had changed his appearance, styled his hair with gel, making it stand upright. He had also whitened his face, applied a bit of lipstick, and wore flashy, trendy clothes, baggy pants and a pair of stylish high-top leather shoes. He was no longer a computer science student but a full-fledged second-generation rich kid. "Haogu, it's me, Jin Xiaojian. Can't you recognize me? I didn't change that much, did I?" Approaching, Jin Xiaojian handed Fang Hao a pack of limited edition cigarettes, saying, "These are exclusive, only a few households in the whole Jiangdong City can afford them. They have a great flavor." Fang Hao didn't take the cigarettes, saying, "Have you changed this much?" Coming closer, Jin Xiaojian stuffed the cigarettes into Fang Hao's lab coat pocket, saying, "My sister's scandal can't be made public. I asked for whatever I wanted, and my mom had to give it to me. A car, I got it. Money, I got it too. With a car and money, won't women come to me? Haogu, I have to thank you for telling me the truth. You're my benefactor. Without you, I wouldn't have turned my life around." Fang Hao chuckled, saying, "You were born into an extraordinary family, it's your destiny. These things are rightfully yours and have nothing to do with me. Haogu, you're being too modest. But, Haogu, I have a little trouble now. I've found that my stamina is a bit short in a certain aspect. I can't last more than a few minutes. Can you give me some medicine to last longer? Look, those two came with me from the nightclub." Jin Xiaojian brought up a desire most men share. It's a male health issue, and I'm not specialized in that field. You should consult a more professional expert. With your capabilities, you can definitely find a solution. Fang Hao suddenly felt a bit disgusted with Jin Xiaojian, perhaps a hint of jealousy as well. After all, this guy transformed from an academically average young man into a genuine second-generation wealthy, enjoying luxury cars and beautiful women every night. Fang Hao envied the fact that Jin Xiaojian, born with a silver spoon, effortlessly obtained things that ordinary people would struggle for their entire lives without striving. It's like two neighbors who were once both poor, and suddenly one becomes wealthy while the other remains in poverty. The impoverished one looks down on the wealthy, yet in reality, they are no longer on the same level and can't be friends anymore. More than anything, there's a sense of disappointment. From Jin Xiaojian's transformed appearance, Fang Hao could see that this guy didn't stick to his original aspirations. From being a middleman for gunners to becoming a full-fledged second-generation wealthy, the change was too drastic. A person's significant change often reveals their true nature, the distortion of their soul. A good person may turn into a complete scoundrel, extremely wicked. On the contrary, someone full of evil may put down their weapons and become a great person, achieving enlightenment. Well then, Haogu, you're too modest. Let's get together for a drink sometime. Jin Xiaojian waved and left in his flashy car. Modest? With your character, curing you will only lead to you harming more women. Even more ludicrous is how, with your character, you plan to take over your family's business group, compete with your sister Su Linine, and your unseen academic achiever younger sister? With your reckless behavior, will your cunning mother hand over the company to you? Suddenly, Fang Hao remembered something he wanted to remind Jin Xiaojian about but ultimately decided not to call him. Wealth and nobility come with destiny, and success lies in heaven's hands. Let others deal with their own affairs. Returning to the inpatient ward, Fang Hao checked on the postoperative patient who was still under observation. All the data were normal, giving him peace of mind, and he went back to the dormitory to rest. The next day, Fang Hao went home early. He brought breakfast, including bread, and planned to make some porridge for the children. When he entered the bedroom, he saw Su-ro looking fatigued. Upon asking, he learned that she stayed up until 1 or 2 in the morning, waiting for him. Unable to endure any longer, she went to bed. This woman. Fang Hao was speechless, feeling a bit touched but more bitter. He thought, if you're sincere like this, why have you been repeatedly unfaithful for the past 4 years, causing me to wear a cuckold's hat? Fang Hao, come, I have something to ask you. His mother-in-law asked Fang Hao to the study, leaving the children outside to have breakfast. Mom, what's the matter? Where did you go last night? I went to the shock room in the gynecology ward. A patient was in critical condition, and I went to check. Based on the situation, I performed a coronary artery bypass surgery for her. What about the results of the surgery? Of course, it was successful. It ended around 2 or 3 in the morning, and I had to keep her for observation, so I didn't come back. Mom, do you have something to ask me? His mother-in-law said, you said you want to divorce Xiao-ro, but last night, you two were in the bathroom. Well, you said you want a divorce, yet you acted so affectionately. What kind of game are you playing with marriage? Fang Hao felt a bit embarrassed and said, can I say I didn't have that intention? It was Xiao-ro. A slap doesn't sound without a clap. If you didn't have that intention, could Xiao Rou have forced you? You too, saying you want a divorce while acting like that, are you getting divorced or not? Divorce? Now she withdrew my lawsuit, so the divorce is not happening. Even if there was something last night, I wouldn't allow my wife to have other men outside. Wait, Mom, were you eavesdropping? Nonsense. Who eavesdrops? You two are so loud, and I'm not deaf. Next time, keep it down a bit. Disturbing people. His mother-in-law scolded him and gave a warning before leaving. After stepping out, she touched her cheeks and felt a bit warm. Chapter 198. Do you really prefer the rich over the poor? Outside, the children were eating quickly together, seeming to finish their meals in no time. This was a natural phenomenon. When a child ate alone, they were often picky eaters. However, when one or two children ate together, creating a contrast or even a competitive relationship, the tendency for pickiness would diminish. Fang Hao had the children put on their backpacks and, according to the kindergarten teacher's request, take a fan. He noticed that his mother-in-law also had a briefcase, so he asked, Mom, where are you going? I'm going to the Chinese Academy of Sciences. Could you drop me off? Sure. If anything comes up, give me a call. Seeing that his mother-in-law looked well, Fang Hao didn't try to dissuade her from doing research, avoiding potential conflicts. This old professor was a bit conservative, and once her temper flared up, she dared to confront anyone. Observing that Fang Hao was driving Zhang Jun's Mercedes, his mother-in-law commented, Fang Hao, I find that you're quite fond of the rich, aren't you? Oh, how so? Is it because I'm divorcing Xiao Rou, and you think I'm coveting Xiao Rou and your family's wealth? That's not the case. I'm not that kind of person. My only request is to have custody of Tian every day, and then I'll leave with just the clothes on my back. Fang Hao wanted Tian every day because he was his child and also carried the bloodline of the Fang family. He couldn't let Su Rou take his son away, only to be bullied by a stepfather. I'm not talking about your divorce. I'm talking about you driving this car. I offered to give you a family car, but you refused. At first, I didn't understand why, but now that I see you driving a Mercedes, you seem very pleased. I've seen through your character, you're a softie who favors the rich over the poor. Mom, that's a bit too much. I didn't have a car before and drove your family's Peugeot. In that case, wouldn't I also be favoring the rich over the poor? Besides, neither the Peugeot nor this Mercedes is mine. Regarding the Peugeot, your family's maid said she wanted to keep the car, and Dad gave it to her. In the end, I only have the right to use it. Driving your family's car means owing your family a favor. Why should I bother with that? This Mercedes is the same. It's not my car, but driving it doesn't give me a bit of face? Fang Hao chuckled and continued, in the hospital, everyone knows this is Zhang Jun's car. They also know it belongs to Director Lu Jing's family. No one dares to stop me. I am promoted under the guidance of Director Lu Yu and in the same faction as Lu Yu and Lu Jing in the hospital. By driving this car, I'm expressing my stance. In the hospital, anyone who dares to trouble me has to consider the support I have from Lu Jing. This flaunting of power feels quite enjoyable. His mother-in-law raised an eyebrow and said, You're picking sides so early. Is it necessary? When Lu Yu and Lu Jing fall from power, you'll suffer too. Perhaps, those who have a grudge against Lu Yu and Lu Jing won't go after them but target you instead. That's a possibility. So, I can't relax. I've been continuously improving my medical skills, broadening my knowledge. I can't afford to make mistakes in my profession. In reality, coming from a rural background, if someone wants to target me, they don't need to check whether I'm someone's person, they can just trample on me. Your awareness is good, just don't make mistakes. Once you make a mistake in your medical skills, it becomes a matter of life and death. Of course, if you make a mistake, it's not like you're worthless. Come and do research in mathematics with me. Mathematics? Not interested. Besides, after divorcing Xiao Rou, I can't afford to climb up to the level of your Su family and Zhou family anymore. You can talk someone to death. Really boring. His mother-in-law turned her head and looked out of the car window, ignoring Fang Hao. After work, come pick me up. After getting off the car, his mother-in-law threw this sentence at Fang Hao. I'll be in the hospital dormitory at noon and won't go home. If you decide to go home, call Xiao Rou in advance and let her pick you up. I'll have some time in the morning as I'm on break. Be sure to call. Fang Hao refused. Even though his mother-in-law gave him a cold, stern look after saying this, he turned his head as if he hadn't seen it. As it was on his way from the Chinese Academy of Sciences to the hospital, Fang Hao had to pass by Jiangdong Construction Company. It reminded him of the last time he unexpectedly visited the company and discovered a small package sent by his wife's lover, leading him to investigate Tianji Feng. Later, his wife claimed to be working overtime but didn't actually come to the company, presumably spending time with her lover or doing something else. People often do things behind others' backs, and since his wife spent a lot of time in the company, it could potentially be a place for her to contact and meet her affair. Perhaps, I should come to my wife's company more often to see what kind of person she is at work. Otherwise, I won't understand her true nature. With these thoughts, Fang Hao pulled over and drove towards his wife's company. The security guard at the entrance, seeing an unfamiliar luxury car, thought it might be someone important and briskly approached. However, when Fang Hao rolled down the window, the security guard recognized him, and his demeanor turned respectful, mixed with envy. So, Director Su's husband also has such a good car. Indeed, being able to marry Director Su, such a beauty, he must be an excellent person just like Director Su. Do my wife have any packages? She had a break this morning and won't come over. If there are any, I'll take them for her. Fang Hao casually asked with an excuse. The security guard quickly checked and replied, not today, but there were quite a few yesterday. Got it. Fang Hao felt disheartened. If there was no business-related communication, it meant that his wife and her lover were still in contact. Su-ro, I've already proposed a divorce to you, and you vehemently opposed it. You even said you love me, but in reality, you're still sneaking around with your lover or doing other things. You're truly despicable. How could you be such a despicable person? Disgusting. Fine, since you love your lover so much, I'll fulfill your wish. Fang Hao parked the car in front of the main building and walked into the office building. He first went to his wife's office and looked around. The style was the same as last time, with no noticeable changes or added items. The trash bin on the floor had already been cleaned by the cleaning auntie, holding no value. Next to his wife's desk were 2 safes, and only she knew the keys. As a senior financial director, it wasn't unreasonable for her office to be equipped with safes. Wait a minute, why were there 2? Last time he came, there seemed to be only 1 safe. Could it be that one was for the company, and the other was for his wife personally? His wife's private documents might be kept in the personal safe. Fang Hao recalled the situation when he last entered the office and confirmed there was only 1 safe. This sudden appearance of an extra safe might indeed belong to his wife. When his wife had affairs, some things couldn't be kept at home or in the car, and the company was the only place. However, placing them randomly would risk discovery. Last time, Fang Hao intruded without notice, and that might have made his wife cautious. Su-ro, you're truly cunning. Chapter 199, Testing the Wife. To verify this matter, Fang Hao went to another finance director's office. While Su-ro was the deputy director, the person in this office held the actual position. She was a middle-aged woman with high cheekbones, slightly protruding front teeth, an average appearance, but a good temperament. According to Fang Hao's limited information, this woman was the daughter-in-law of a retired big shot in the city, enjoying a semi-retired state in the company. Entering, he asked if the chairman was here, quickly scanning the office and finding only 1 safe, but it was larger than the one in Su-ro's office. Are you Little Ro's husband? Indeed, handsome and young, not bad, not bad. Oh, do you know me? I haven't seen you, but I've heard about you. Little Ro is pregnant with twins, and we all know how capable you are. I'll look for the chairman first, we can talk later. The chairman also mentioned wanting to talk to you, go find her. Fang Hao left first. Because his wife joined Jiangdong Group as a finance professional after marriage, Fang Hao hadn't met Yue Xia, the chairman. Yue Xia, whose real name was Zhou Yun, was the legal representative and chairman of Jiangdong Group. Aged around 50, she was very capable. At the moment, her long hair was elegantly arranged on her head, looking exquisite and chic. Her fair face appeared flawless, showing no signs of aging. She was currently a stunning beauty, reflecting how outstanding she must have been in her youth. Her neck was slender, and while she wasn't thin, she displayed a slight plumpness, preventing the collarbone from being visible but enhancing the prominence of her bosom. The scale of her bosom, covered by the strapless outfit, should be the second largest Fang Hao had seen. The first was the terrifying head nurse in the outpatient department. However, the head nurse's shape was like a papaya, while Zhou Yun's was fully developed, resembling a big, white steamed bun. Zhou Yun was tall, standing only 3 to 5 centimeters shorter than Fang Hao. Shaking hands with him, she exerted a subtle force, displaying the aura of a female leader. A talent indeed. Director Fang, it's no wonder with your looks and capabilities, you captured little Ro's heart with her high standards. Zhou Yun saw Fang Hao and realized what it meant to be an extraordinary man. Fang Hao might appear somewhat shy or even a bit self-deprecating, but a faint aura indicated his strength and elegance. In Fang Hao's age group, Zhou Yun had seen doctors, even professors and other exceptionally intelligent individuals. However, she hadn't encountered anyone as handsome as Fang Hao, with his unique temperament. Furthermore, being appointed as the deputy director of a department in Provincial People's Hospital at the age of 25 or 26, whether relying on Su family's resources or not, impressed her. Fang Hao said, "Chairman, you're exaggerating. Little Ro often says that back then, she chose me because she was blind." "Oh, is that so? As a doctor, can you cure her blindness?" "I can't cure it, and I don't want to. If I cure her, her vision improves, and she won't want me anymore. It would be a loss for me." Silver-tongued. "I understand why Little Ro likes you. You're quite good with words. I won't take up more of your valuable time. I came to make an unpleasant request, and I hope Chairman will agree." "Oh, if someone else made an unpleasant request, I wouldn't even let them speak. But, Director Fang, you're an exception. Speak, what do you need me to do?" "Little Ro is pregnant, and her reactions are quite strong. We also have 2 little troublemakers at home, and with my busy work schedule, it's not suitable for Little Ro to continue working. I hope Chairman can terminate her employment." "Oh, you want me to dismiss Little Ro? But she's my capable assistant. Without her, I'll suffer significant losses. That's why it's an unpleasant request. Since you've personally come here, I can't refuse you. Later, I'll talk to Little Ro about the handover, and then she'll become your full-time wife." "Thank you, Chairman. Don't just say sweet words, they don't work on me. I'm a businesswoman, and I need to see real benefits. You're a doctor, and you relieve people of their physical ailments. I happen to have a chronic headache for 20 years. It flares up every once in a while, and even going to the hospital for medication doesn't show improvement. Over the years, I've become tired of it. You're young and talented, you must help me look into it and find a way to relieve my pain." "No problem. I work in the gynecology department at Provincial People's Hospital. When you come, I'll examine you. Give me your phone number. When I go, I'll find you." Fang Hao exchanged numbers and then left. "Su Ro, if you ask me to leave Provincial People's Hospital, I'll make sure you leave Jiolong. Let's see who prevails. I'm making you a full-time wife, so you'll have plenty of time. You and your old pervert can be together. Su Ro, don't catch me cheating in bed." Slap. Fang Hao gave himself a slap because he was essentially pushing Su Ro into the arms of that old pervert. He felt like he wasn't a real man. However, it could also be a kind of test. If Su Ro can't endure loneliness and really goes to the old pervert, what value does such a woman have? Su Ro was already a woman who cheated. Letting her go to her lover would expose who that lover is. Slap. Fang Hao gave himself another slap. Why did he choose such a woman to be his wife? Why couldn't he see through her at the time? Why did he trust her so much over the past 4 years? Blind, it was himself. Fang Hao's emotions were turbulent, but his face remained surprisingly calm. Driving out of the company gate, he looked up at the building of the construction company. The scale of this construction company was quite large. 3 years ago, right after his wife gave birth, she started working here and took on a financial role. In less than a year, she was promoted to a director level. Besides his wife's own intelligence, could the Su family's resources have contributed to her rapid rise, or perhaps the efforts of her lover? Putting himself in the shoes of someone with a lover, Fang Hao considered that if he had a lover, he might also consider placing the lover in his own industry. This way, the lover would be in a comfortable environment, free from worries about food and clothing, maintaining their appearance, and showcasing their abilities for self-fulfillment. It was a high-end way of raising a mistress. Jiolong Construction Company might be worth investigating. Fang Hao had individuals in mind who could help him inquire about this, such as Zhang Jun, Lu Jing, Tang Wan, Tang Qi, and even Xiao Yiheng. Lower on the trust level were people like Jin Xiaojian, Su Jia, and others. Yun Jia might also be a key breakthrough. As Fang Hao pondered, a sudden call interrupted his thoughts. Seeing that it was from Lu Yu, he quickly answered. "Fang Hao, where are you? Today, Luo Shuajuan complained to me, saying that you didn't follow the rules and interfered with her patient's treatment plan. What's going on?" "Director, haven't you arrived at the hospital yet?" "Not yet, I had something in the morning that delayed me. It will take at least 10 more minutes to get to the hospital." "You haven't reached the hospital, so you don't know what happened." Fang Hao sighed and explained the situation. Chapter 200, Be careful of your future. The two met at the hospital. Liu believed in Fang Hao, fearing that if he handled things too hastily, there might be evidence left behind. She had already arranged for the female patient who underwent surgery in the early morning to have a postoperative X-ray. At this moment, the latest CT scan images were displayed on the viewing equipment in front of them. Fang Hao examined them and said, "From these images, the stent has met the blood volume requirements, there's no rejection reaction, no bleeding points at the incision, and healing has begun." Liu, referencing various indicators, also breathed a sigh of relief, saying, "Fang Hao, this is a perfect surgery. As far as I know, this is the second time you've performed this type of surgery, and you've done an amazing job. Director, spare me. The current issue is not about the surgery itself." Fang Hao also felt a huge weight lifted from his heart. He had successfully saved the patient, and there were no flaws in the surgical aspect that could be attacked. Now, the burden was on Luo Xuejuan. He said, "Now, Director Luo wants to investigate the sudden shock leading to a heart attack in the patient. Do I need to get involved? Have Dr. Li Rongzi come over." Liu made a call, and in a few minutes, Dr. Li Rongzi came in. Dr. Li Rongzi cast an unfriendly look at Fang Hao, blaming him for not seeking her permission and performing surgery on her patient. Moreover, he had mentioned stopping the medications they prescribed. She preemptively said, "Director Fang, didn't we have an agreement? Why didn't you abide by it? Are you still a man?" Liu frowned and said, "Dr. Li, please watch your words." Dr. Li Rongzi wasn't afraid of Liu because as a rehired former director, the day the new director arrived, the old director had to leave. She said, "I've already been polite enough. Fang Hao, how do you explain this?" Fang Hao cursed inwardly but maintained a friendly smile on his face. He said, "Dr. Tian tried calling you and Director Luo last night, and you both didn't answer. He called me only after that, and I didn't want to come, but I had no choice. Impossible, I didn't receive any calls. Even if you couldn't reach my phone, couldn't you have sent someone to find me? Dr. Li, didn't you read last night's medical log? I should have made the patient wait for you. This is all my fault." Fang Hao's expression turned serious as he said, "As a doctor, you should understand the situation before questioning me. Otherwise, what kind of professional are you? Get lost." "You?" Li Rongzi didn't expect Fang Hao to turn hostile. "Don't rush to leave. This is your responsibility for the patient's surgical situation. Go back and do your homework." Liu handed a lab report to Li Rongzi and made a dismissive gesture. It wasn't very harmful, but it carried a significant amount of insult. Then the phone rang again, this time from the dean's office. Fang Hao answered, and it was the dean's secretary asking him to come to the office. After hanging up, Fang Hao said to Liu, "Why did the dean call me early in the morning? Did the results of the dean's competition come out? Is there any news?" "No. Several candidates are still competing. Don't rule out the possibility of an external appointment. After all, the position of the dean is a coveted one at the official level. Then I'll go over first and see what the dean wants me to do." Fang Hao decided to adapt to the situation. He went to the dean's office. Yang Wenjin saw Fang Hao coming in and slammed the table, saying, "Fang Hao, why is it you again? You've caused trouble for me once more." Fang Hao was puzzled and said, "There's nothing like that. I haven't done anything. How did I cause trouble for you?" Yang Wenjin said, "I don't believe it. Liu must have told you about the decision from above to appoint Luo Xuejuan as the head of the obstetrics and gynecology department. You should also know that those patients were carefully selected by Luo Xuejuan for a new drug clinical trial. You should know not to touch her patients, but why did you secretly perform surgery on her patients and use different medications? Give me an explanation. Dean, as the head of the hospital, you should be aware of everything that happens here, big or small. You have a discerning eye and have already made a judgment. What do I need to explain to you? You can make whatever decision you want." Fang Hao's attitude was firm this time. He hadn't done anything wrong, so why let Yang Wenjin manipulate him again? Besides, Yang Wenjin was about to step down. Could she still suppress him like she did for the past 4 years? "I'm just temporary here, doing odd jobs for you. When the new head arrives, I'll be useless. If you want to remove me, go ahead. Changing decisions so suddenly, I want to see how you'll protect your future." After saying this, he left directly, slamming the door behind him. "You?" Yang Wenjin was furious and didn't expect Fang Hao to turn the tables on her. She was a bit dazed and wondered if Fang Hao knew that she was stepping down and no longer considered her the dean. People come and go. The secretary came in, saw Yang Wenjin's unpleasant expression, and cautiously asked, "Dean, are you feeling unwell? Do we need to adjust today's schedule?" "No need. I'm fine." That brat Fang Hao angered me. "Dean, do you want to hold a small meeting to remove Fang Hao from his temporary position as the deputy head of the department?" "Forget it. Otherwise, if I do as he said, he might accuse me of changing decisions arbitrarily. Summarize the ideological work of the obstetrics and gynecology department and let them strengthen organizational and ideological learning." "Yes." Fang Hao took a cigarette on the corridor bridge to calm his emotions before returning to the obstetrics and gynecology department. In the office, Liu was explaining something. When she saw Fang Hao return, she asked the other person to leave first and said to Fang Hao, "I heard from the secretary that you almost flipped the table in front of the dean. It's not that extreme, but she's too biased. I couldn't bear it. After leaving, I regretted it." "Seriously?" Fang Hao shook his head. In front of Liu, he needed to act a bit submissive. "No, you are in the right in this matter. She couldn't touch you. She just wants our department to focus on ideological and work-style construction. Let's just let this matter pass. But, you've also somewhat experienced the new head style. She likes to report to higher-ups. In the future, there might be more behind-the-scenes actions. You have to be more careful." Liu wasn't trying to make a big deal out of it. She wanted to teach Fang Hao how to handle people and situations wisely, ensuring his safety. Fang Hao frowned and said, "If that's the case, I won't be able to please her. I have to quickly transfer to Director Liu's side. It's also a critical time for her. Wait for her to make a decision first, and then consider making changes. Otherwise, you'll just distract her attention. Both watermelons and sesame seeds will be hard to obtain." Liu didn't agree with Fang Hao's impulsive jumping around at this moment. Those who truly reap the benefits are often those who remain calm. Only when they understand the opponent's tactics and cards will they strike and achieve their goals. Fang Hao's foundation was too weak, and his experience was too shallow. Trying to compete in this changing situation was wishful thinking.